Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to tackle all about Module 6 of Quarter 2, Part 2. This is Sir Topper, your Science 7 teacher. And this is Module 6, Quarter 2, Part 2. Let's start. By the way, I'm going to present to you our lesson in a Mobile Legend template. Second quarter, grade 7, Science 7, Part 2. This is sexual reproduction when two produces differences. So for today, we're going to need the most essential learning competency of this lesson. Differentiate asexual from sexual reproduction in terms of number of individuals involved and similarities of offspring to parent. After going through this module, you are expected to: number 1, describe sexual reproduction. Number 2, label the male and female reproductive structures of a gomamela flower or hibiscus and distinguish asexual and sexual reproduction in terms of number of individuals involved in similarities of offspring to parents. Let's move on. Before we proceed with the main lesson, let us have this review. What I know and the directions. Choose the best answer from the given choices and key in your answers in our class point up. Are you ready? If you're ready, let's start with question number 1. How many parent cell or cells are required for sexual reproduction? Is it A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, D, 6? And go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter B. We need 2 parent cells. How about number 2 question? In what organ of the plant does reproduction occurs? A, flower, B, leaf, C, roots, D, stem. Go. And the correct answer for this is letter A. That is flower. Number 3 question. This part of a flower become the seeds when fertilized. Is it A, ovary, B, ovules, C, stigma, and D, style? Go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter B, ovules. Number 4 question. Which of the following refers to the female reproductive part of a flower? Is it A, petal, B, pistil, C, sepal, D, estamen? Go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter B, pistil. Let's have number 5 question. Which of the following refers to the male reproductive part of a flower? Is it A, petal, B, pistil, C, sepal, D, estamen? Go. Time is up. The correct answer here is letter D, estamen. Number 6 question. Which of the following is not a part of the pistil? Is it A, anther, B. stigma, C. style, D. ovary. Go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter A, anther. Number 7 question. In what part of the flower are the pollen grains produced? Is it A, anther, B, filament, C, ovary, D, stigma? Go. Time is up. The correct answer for number 7 is letter A, anther. Number 8 question. Which of the following organisms uses conjugation as its mode of sexual reproduction? Is it A, frog, B, papaya, C, spirogia, D, gomamela flower or hibiscus? Go. Time is up. Answer for number 8 question is letter C, spirogia. Number 9 question. Which species can produce offspring that are genetically different from their parents? Is it A, a species that has few variations, B, a species that reproduce sexually, C, a species that produces or reproduces asexually, or D, a species that completes with similar species? And go. Time is up. The correct answer here is letter B, a species that reproduces sexually. And let's have the last number for our review. Number 10. Flowers are the reproductive organs of plants. How will you differentiate flowers from the reproductive organs of animals? Is it A, flowers need pollinations like bees to reproduce? Animals do not. Letter B, flowers are shed from time to time. Nothing is shed from animal. Letter C, flowers have male and female parts. Animals have their male or female parts. Letter D, there is no difference between flowers and the reproductive organs of animals. And go. Okay, time is up. The correct answer for number 10 is letter A. Flowers need pollinations like bees to reproduce. Animals do not. Okay, congratulations for those who got it right. For today, we're going to discuss all about Lesson 2 of Module 6. This is entitled Sexual Reproduction When Two Produces Differences. Let's go. Hello there. I want you to label the parts of the gomamela flower. But before you do that, you need to read and understand the reproductive parts of plants. This is Activity 1. What's new? The reproductive parts of plants. Plant parts that are involved in sexual reproduction are called reproductive parts. These parts produce sex cells or gametes in the form of ovules and pollen grains. Since you have learned about the vegetative parts of plants, now it is the right time to know the reproductive parts. Have you tried walking along the garden and observed the flowers? What is the most attractive part that you can see? It is the petals, or the other floral parts. Well, generally speaking, petals are the most attractive of all the floral parts, purposely so to attract insects. The flower is the reproductive organ of a plant that produces the egg and sperm. Sex organs are formed during the reproductive stage of plant development. In flowering plants, sex cells are produced in certain floral organs. Look at the diagram on the next slide to examine the floral parts. The male reproductive organ is called stamen. It is made up of two parts, the anther and the filament. The anther produces the pollen, which contains the male sperm cells and the filament that holds or supports the anther up. The female reproductive organ is the pistil. Starting from the top, it is composed of the following parts: stigma, style, ovary, and the ovules. The ovules are equivalent to the pollen grains of the male reproductive organ. They are the sex cells produced in the ovary. Did you understand the context? Label now the parts of the gomamela flower as shown in the next slide. Key in your answers in our class point up. Okay, so here are the parts of the flower. We have the first part, more on the pistil. That is 1 to 4. And number 5 is separated. Number 6 and 7 is part of stamen. 8, 9, 10 are also separated. Okay, so let's have the answers. Okay, in this part, this is called the stigma. And this part, below down of the stigma, is called the style. And the lower part of that is called the ovary. And the inside part of the ovary are called ovules. And this one at the lower part of the ovules is called the receptacle. Let's talk about the stamen. Okay, so stamen is composed of the anther here, and the tube beside anther is filament. And this is called the petal, and this is the sepal. And don't forget the stem that holds the flower. Okay, without further ado, let's move on with the next slide. Do you notice the yellowish portion at the center? Yes, it is a group of anther that contains the pollen. The anther is held up by a structure known as the filament. Anther and filament comprise the stamen. Then this time, locate the pistil. Pistil is composed of the stigma, ovary, and style. The colored part at the center is the sticky stigma. Take note, sticky, which receives the pollen during pollination. It has a tube called the style and ends up in the ovary of the plant. When pollen lands on the stigma during the process of fertilization, a tube grows down the style and enters the ovary. Male sperm cells travel down the tube and join with the ovule, fertilizing it. The fertilized ovule becomes the seed, and the ovary becomes the fruit. Have you tasted an apple? Tomato? Cucumber? What part of the plant are these? These organs are called fruits. A fruit is defined as the ripened ovary of a plant containing the seeds. After fertilization, the ovary swells and becomes either fleshy or hard to protect the developing seeds. Most of the items prepared as vegetables are actually fruits, such as tomato, cucumber, beans, and squash. So this is example of an apple. Did you know that these are all ripened ovaries? And they are called fruits. Fruits are the so-called the products of fertilization. Fruits have originated from the ovary of the flower, which means that they are products of sexual reproduction. Cut the fruit and check for some hard structures inside. How many do you find inside? These are the fertilized ovules, or popularly referred to as seeds. Once seeds germinate, they are capable of growing into another young plant. Some microorganisms undergo sexual reproduction by a process called conjugation. An example of the microorganism that reproduces by conjugation is Spirogyra. It is a green algae. Spirogyra can be found in the freshwater habitats such as ponds and rivers. During conjugation, a bridge forms between two cells of the Spirogyra filaments lying side by side. The contents of one cell pass into the other cell through the bridge, emptying the other cell. The contents of both cells combine in the other cell and form the zygote. This zygote is able to secrete a substance that forms a wall around itself for protection against unfavorable environmental conditions, like when the pond dries up. When conditions become suitable for growth and development, the zygote grows into a new individual. So what's more? Let's talk about sexual reproduction in humans. Humans and all animals that reproduce sexually have cells called gametes. Gametes are formed during meiosis and come in the form of sperm produced by males or eggs produced by females. When conditions are right, sperm and egg unite in a process known as fertilisation. The resulting fertilized egg or zygote contains genes from both parents. Questions to ponder. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Number 1 question. How many parent cell or cells is or are involved in sexual reproduction? Number 2. Are the parents and the offspring identical or not? Explain your answer. Number 3. How are asexual and sexual reproduction similar? How do they differ? Number 4. Draw your own conclusion. Okay, let's see the answer. For number 1 answer, we have 2. For number 2 answer, the parents and the offspring under sexual reproduction are not identical to each other. For number 3 answer, sexual reproduction produces offspring that are not identical to each other, while asexual reproduction produces offspring that are identical to each other. Number 4 answer. Sexual reproduction involves two parent cells, while asexual reproduction involves only one parent cell. Sexual reproduction produces variety of forms of life, while asexual reproduction maintains the traits of the parents to their offspring. What I have learned. So this is a direction. Fill up the concept map of the plant reproductive organ using the word pool below. And these are the words: reproductive, sepals, petals, stamen, style, stigma, anther or pollen, filament, ovary or ovum. So, let us have this as our short answer. So you're given the time to fill up this map, and the time is now. Okay, let's reveal the answer. So, the flower is divided into two, the non-reproductive and the reproductive. Under non-reproductive, we have sepal and petal. For reproductive, we have stamen and pistil. Under stamen, we have anther with the pollen filament. Under the pistil, we have stigma, style, and ovary. So that's all. These are the basic parts of the flower. So what can I do? So you're given the chance to make a story regarding this topic using the ideas that you have learned in our previous activities and discussions. So you may describe the sexual reproduction of flowering plants like the gomamela flower by creating your own story. Please follow the given criteria and focus yourselves with that distinguished 5 points. Okay? So to end this discussion, let us assess ourselves. Directions: choose the best answer and key in your answers in our class point up. Number 1. What part of the flower is the most attractive where it uses to attract insects? A. Ovary. B. Petals. C. Sepals. D. Style. Time is up. The correct answer is... What do you think? Correct answer is letter B. It is petals. Number 2 question. What do you call to the part of the flower that supports or holds the anther up? Is it A. Filament, B. Pollen, C. Stamen, D. Style? And go. Correct answer is letter A. Filament. Number 3 question. Which of the following parts of the flower refers to the sex cells produced by the ovary? Is it A. Anther, B. Ovules, C. Style, D. Pollen grains? And go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter B. Ovules. Number 4 question. Which of the following does not belong to the group? Is it A. Filament, B. Ovary, C. Stigma, D. Style? And go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter A. Filament. Number 5 question. In what organ of the plant does reproduction occurs? Is it A. Flower, B. Leaf, C. Roots, D. Stem? And go. Okay, time is up. The correct answer is letter A. Flower. Number 6 question. Which of the following organisms uses pollination as its mode of sexual reproduction? Is it A. Frog, B. Rabbit, C. Spirogyra, D. Gomamela flowers or hibiscus flowers? And go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter D. Gomamela flowers. Let's move on. Number 7 question. Which of the following refers to the male reproductive part of a flower? A. Petal, B. Pistil, C. Sepal, D. Stamen? Go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter D. Stamen. Number 8 question. Which species can produce offspring that are genetically different from their parents? Is it A. A species that has a few variations, B. A species that reproduces sexually, C. A species that reproduces asexually, or D. A species that competes with similar species? And go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter B, a species that reproduces sexually. Let's move with number 9 question. In what part of the flower are the pollen grains produced? Is it A, anther, B, filament, C, ovary, D, stigma, and go. Time is up. The correct answer is letter A, anther. And let's have the last question for our assessment. Number 10. Which of the following statement or statements differentiates asexual from sexual reproduction? 1. In sexual reproduction, two parent cells are needed to produce new individual. 2. In asexual reproduction, only one parent cell is needed to produce new individual. 3. In sexual reproduction, only one parent cell involved, while asexual reproduction, two parent cells are involved. Is it A, 1 and 2, B, 2 and 3, C, 1 and 3, and D, 3 only? And go. The correct answer is letter A, 1 and 2. So we are given here additional activities. So this is using Venn diagram. So using what you have learned on the previous lesson on asexual reproduction, create a Venn diagram on the differences and similarities of asexual and sexual reproduction. So fill in your answer now. For our answer, at the middle, we have two types of reproduction. On the left side, we have asexual reproduction, and on the right side, we have sexual reproduction. When we say asexual reproduction, it involves only one parent cell to reproduce. Parents and offsprings are identical to each other and maintains the traits of the parents all to its offspring. While on sexual reproduction, we need two parent cells in order to reproduce. Parents and offspring are not identical to each other. And again, it produces variety forms of life. So this is the Venn diagram on the similarities and differences of asexual and sexual reproductions. Okay? So, without any question with our lesson, thank you. This is Sir Topper, your Science 7 teacher. Good morning and God bless.